Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a full council on November the 20th. Lovely. Just a quick word. Because we have a public question relating to one of the items, that's item 12, if councillors agree, I propose to move item 12 to follow item 7, which is the public questions. Are you all content with that? Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any apologies for absence, Lauren?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for absence we received from Councillors Bailey, Beattie, Butikofer, Hankins, Heinrich, Punchard, Ringer and Farley.
Okay, thank you very much. The minutes, can we confirm the minutes from the last meeting? Does anybody have any questions of accuracy? Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 12. Okay, is everyone content that they're correct? Would someone like to propose them? Thank you, Councillor Whittington, and second them. Councillor Netherway. Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest? Any agenda items from anybody? No? Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any items of urgent business?
None received.
Thank you very much. Oh, Chairman's communications. Lauren, have you got the? Lovely. Thank you very much. Lovely. So the first event was the RBL in Blakeney with its branch standard laying up, and we've got a new standard bearer, and this was a very nice service. And the RBL in the British Legion in Blakeney seems to be on a wave at the moment, so that's very nice to see. And we had the wonderful 50-year birthday party for NNDC, which many of you attended, and was brilliantly put together. And thanks very much to all the staff who brought absolutely delicious food. It was wonderful, and the people who put the montages together, which were absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much indeed. We met some old friends, which was very nice. Right, this is the Justice Service is very interesting. We blessed the judges, and well, in Norwich Cathedral, and it's pretty interesting actually. That was very good, and the High Sheriff was very grand. So it's a very solemn service actually. And the Trafalgar Day supper at King's Lynn, we learnt a lot about Trafalgar Day, which was a totally brilliant talk. They do some very good history talks and things then. And rather embarrassing, I learnt a lot about Trafalgar Day, which I should have known already, but it was a very interesting evening. And this is somewhat different. We went to an Indian restaurant in Wisbech as a charity do with the mayor, which was very good food actually. Anybody ever wants to get very good food, that was an excellent evening. And then on the 24th of October, we dedicated the Field of Remembrance at Cromer Churchyard, which was a very nice service. And then this was great fun actually. If you ever need any singing, sort of 40s type singing, the Jeff Short Swing Band was absolutely brilliant. So we had a lovely time in Hobbiton Village Hall celebrating the Dementia Cafe, and that was a very good afternoon. And then a very solemn and memorable Remembrance Parade and service at Cromer on the 10th. And again, a very thought-provoking moment of remembrance on the Monday morning, 11 AM. And now we have one of our speakers from one of my charities, which is the Memory Lane Cafe in Munsley. So Alison Jackson's going to come and talk about the wonderful work they do. The charities this year are small dementia groups, and this is one of them. Thank you very much for coming, Alison.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. So just to introduce myself, my name is Alison Jackson and I live in Knapton, and I'm a church warden at Knapton. And along with Bob White, who's the church warden at Munsley, who started this, he said to me, Alison, will you come and help me start a dementia cafe? We've had one before in Munsley, and it went by the wayside. But we can really see a need that there are people in Munsley and the surrounding area who need somewhere to go to. So between us, we talked to all different people. We went to the Cameo Cafe, which is held in North Walsham, and we went to the Poppy Cafe, which is held in Holt, and looked at what those people did and got ideas from them of what we could do for dementia, people suffering with dementia, but also people caring for people with dementia and those people who've lost somebody due to dementia. So we're open to all. And just a little bit of background for myself. My mother had dementia. She died 16 years ago yesterday, actually. And one of the things that really sticks in my mind is her saying to me in her own home, "Can you take me home now, please?" She had no idea where she was and she didn't feel safe. She just wanted me to take her home to somewhere safe. She knew who I was, funnily enough. She didn't know where she was. So there are people who need our help and our support. So we got together as a group and we got various volunteers who come and help us within the area. And we put together a constitution. So our aims on our constitution are to hold friendly fortnightly sessions in Munsley community rooms, providing drinks, cakes, games and entertainment in a safe and relaxed atmosphere for those suffering with dementia. Their support group, be it carers or family, and the group comes under the umbrella of All Saints Community Church at Munsley. However, we are a non-religious group. We may both be church wardens, but it's open to everybody. So it's nothing to do with religion at all. And so what we're trying to do is really promote our Memory Lane Dementia Cafe. So how do we get people to come along? So we've produced leaflets, which are all over. We've got posters. We put things outside the Dementia Cafe. We get people who come along from the Mundhaven care homes and Clarence House care homes, people suffering with dementia. But we also get families who come along, family groups. And the last one that we held, we had a choir come and sing, because probably you're all aware that people with dementia really relate to singing, and everybody likes to have a little bit of a sing-song, so they were all old songs that most people knew. And one of the gentlemen was singing along, happy, his wife, and they were joining in, it was all fine. An hour later, my husband said to him, "Did you enjoy the singing?" And he said, "What singing?" "I didn't know there was any singing. Are they going to sing in a minute?" So he'd got no idea that we'd had any singing, but his wife and his daughter, who were there with him, had had a fabulous time. They'd really, really enjoyed it. We have another gentleman who comes who shows us a letter every time he comes that says he's got dementia. Early stages, but he wants us to know because he thinks we won't know he's got dementia. So he always shows us his letter. And another example, we had a lady who came and she was really upset, came to the cafe and stood outside. And her father had recently passed away and she had no idea how bad the dementia was with her mother, how poorly her mother was. And she'd got no idea where to go, who to help, who could pass on support. So that's another thing that we do, is to try and point people in the direction of any support that we can give them. So we don't charge for anybody who comes. It is anybody who can give us donations, fantastic. We accept those wholeheartedly. But moving forward, as I say, what we need to do is to promote. What we'd like to do is have some entertainment come once a month, so we have something different. So we do games and we do different things each time, and encouraging people to come and talk to us, and hopefully we can help and support whatever is needed. So thank you for listening to me. Any questions anybody has?
Hi, Alison.
Hiya.
I'm just really proud and pleased that you've taken on the Dementia Friendly Cafe. The photo that was there was, I started that with a friend of mine back in 2018, I think. Oh my goodness, I was thin then, relatively. And COVID basically put the kibosh on it. But I remember wheeling the ladies and gentlemen up from Munhaven to be there, and we'd be singing all the way. And it was wonderful. They'd remember all the words to songs, but they couldn't speak otherwise. And I think having different entertainment for them is really important as well. We used to look at old knitting patterns and stuff like that, and the ladies would teach me to knit, and I do miss it. So I'm really grateful to you and Bob for bringing it back, and I see all the faces and the people that we've lost along the way. But I'm really pleased that you've reached out to them, and this facility is now thriving, and I do recommend that you go and see the Memory Lane Cafe. So I'm really moved, and if anything I can do to help, you know that anyway, Alice.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to speak to us tonight, Alison, and sharing that with us. Most people know here that dementia is very close to my heart for similar reasons that you've experienced. But I totally understand how important that facility that you're providing in Munsley and for the area must be. And I think it's part of the thing where people can live well with dementia, but they can't live well with dementia without the support facilities in place that community groups such as yours are giving. And you're quite right to recognise how important it is to carers as well. So thank you, very much, because I know people will go to that group from beyond Munsley. People will try and have somewhere that they can go every day of the week and across North Norfolk. So and no doubt you've got people from all over the place.
We have a couple who come. They come on holiday actually, so they live a fortnight in Munsley and a fortnight in back in Hertfordshire, and when they're in Munsley, they come to the cafe, and the gentleman has been diagnosed with dementia, and the lady has found it really helpful because it's giving her help and support when she's in this part of the world.
One other thing that I want to say that's much for the benefit of everybody here. You talked about the gentleman who couldn't remember after an hour, but as Councillor Holiday will know, because we were at we did some dementia awareness training with councillors and members and staff recently. And we were talking about the fact that you have an emotional memory that doesn't get rocked with dementia, and that stays there, and hence the connection with music. But I'm sure that gentleman had very happy feelings for the rest of the day. He won't know why, but he would have had a much happier day as a result of that singing. So it is making a difference. And please don't stop giving people those experiences because they are so important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. For anybody that doesn't know Alison, I've had the privilege of working alongside her on lots and lots of projects, some big, some small, over the last 6 or 7 years. I can't think of anyone who will be better at doing what she does. And I, for one, would most certainly support whatever she does.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Did you have a question, Councillor Toy?
Yeah, not so much a question, but do you have any leaflets with you? Because as a district councillor, I keep a little folder of information for anybody that I might meet.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a few here that I will leave. We've got loads at the cafe, but I did bring a few along just so if anybody wants to have a look, then you're very welcome to have those.
Thank
I'll
you.
leave those there. Thank you. Thank you.
Tim, do you have any leaders' announcements?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I wanted to congratulate staff who have been recognised as Revenues and Local Taxation Team of the Year by the Institute of Revenues Rating and Valuation. The they are the very best in the country and continue to do so well. And secondly, we are also now the first non-stockholding council, so the council house holding council, to be awarded domestic abuse housing authority status, recognizing the depth of support to people experiencing domestic violence. I would thirdly like to congratulate all staff, councillors, and also representatives of other bodies following the confirmation we are to receive funding for the Fakenham Leisure Centre, which is another magnificent achievement. So these are good news stories, really, in fairly grim times, and we are grateful to all. And this council, continues to be highly functional despite those challenges. The entire local government sector is still seeking to understand the ambiguity, really, of the autumn budget. For instance, the 220 million that was announced for housing and homelessness, and whether that is indeed additional funding, given that we had the 330 million to the sector in previous years from the homelessness prevention grant. At this time, we have around 62 households in temporary accommodation, though this may increase with the colder weather, the severe weather emergency protocol, which is now in action. And I believe this equates to over 70 children in temporary accommodation at this time. So if it weren't for these pressures and the financial impact of that, amounting to, as we expect, 1.3 million pounds of cost pressure this year, we'd be unlikely, considering the cost-cutting measures impacting services across the council as we now are. And we're, of course, one of a number of sectors responding now to the emerging pressures across the country. Of course, we've seen notably the farmers active in recent days in respect of the impacts on themselves, but also the hospitality sector may see a significant level of drop out of the market as a result of various changes announced. In terms of the letters agreed at the previous meeting of the council in respect to the winter fuel and temporary accommodation pressures, we have yet to receive any response from the government. But lastly, I wanted to hand over to Councillor John Toy for a further much better announcement in respect of the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Chair. So it was a great honour and privilege for me on behalf of this council to go and collect the Defence Employer Recognition Award, particularly during this period where we've had remembrance. However, this is, whilst I'm a veteran, and this is important times for us, actually this is about the future and the future of this country. So it's been a long journey, which I thank officers of this council for delivering this, and for Officer Siddell, who came with me as well from HR, because they played a big role in establishing the sort of rules that are required around this. So it would have started way back when we signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant, and then we would have gone bronze and silver, which has been announced here. And now we've achieved the gold award, which is not just a council recognition. We've done it as a council, but it's open to any employer. It's an employer recognition. But it shows the commitment of this council, not only to our veteran forces, which I'm grateful for what we do there, but also for our reservists. Much of the defence of this country is now done by our reservists. And it also, by getting the gold award, we've shown a commitment to the cadet forces and the people that work with cadet forces and give up their time voluntarily. So yes, it's a great award, and we should be proud of the council of getting it, because it's a huge amount of work that's gone into achieving this. And again, I would thank officers for doing that. It's them that have done this throughout the council and support this work, which is important to our nation, not just to North Norfolk, but it's important to our nation. So thank you, and and congratulations to them for getting us this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I add my congratulations as well, thanks to the officers. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my name's Martin Booth. I'm a Cromer resident and I'm part of the Save Benjamin Court campaign. And so my question is about Benjamin Court. It's a very short question, so I'll just, with the time I've got, put a little bit of context. I'm sure most, if not all of you, councillors are aware of the situation that Benjamin Court in Cromer has been sitting empty since July of last year, when the County Council decided to withdraw the reablement service from it without any consultation. And since then, our campaign group has been campaigning for it to be reopened for reablement and rehabilitation for those discharged from hospital who are not yet ready to go home. And I'm very grateful to this council, to yourselves, for the strong support that you've shown for that aim. A number of parish councils as well have also expressed their support and spoken up about it. The NHS Norfolk and Waveney Integrated Care Board conducted a public engagement exercise, which included a Health Watch survey in which 295 people responded. 79% said that they wanted Benjamin Court reopened for rehabilitation and reablement, and the other 21% wanted it reopened for some sort of health and care use. But despite that, the ICB at the end of September said, well, that's all very well, but it doesn't fit our model of care. We don't think it's financially viable. So they're ending their involvement with Benjamin Court and handing it back to NHS Property Services, who actually own the building, basically to dispose of it. I mean, we were pretty appalled by this, and we're challenging them. There's a meeting next week of the board. We've got questions going to them. This is in a context where we got figures that show that around £10 million a month is being wasted on people who are stuck in hospital because they've got nowhere else to go across Norfolk and Waveney. And that's leaving out the local element here in North Norfolk. But of course, meanwhile, the concern is that it's been handed to NHS Property Services. What's going to happen to the building, to Benjamin Court? It could well be that in the future there may be a decision to say, yes, we do need such a facility. The building will have gone. So in that light, the question that I'm asking is this. As North Norfolk District Council has consistently supported the call for Benjamin Court to be reopened for health and care use, will the council directly approach NHS Property Services to ensure that the site will continue to be used for this purpose? That's a question.
So, Councillor Adams, do you want to respond now, or should we move on to?
I don't
Item
mind responding as a
12. Yes.
preamble to the item, if you like. So, I just wanted to say, first of all, we've obviously written to the government again on this matter, and we certainly feel the outcomes we've reached at this point are at odds with the Health in an Ageing Society report, the well-known Christopher Whitty report, and that we feel really the health services are moving with undue haste towards the disposal of this property. And it's quite ridiculous when you consider we've got a relatively modern clinical setting that's sat there empty, that could be serving the needs of certainly residents across this district, but certainly the patients, particularly at the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital. So I welcome the continued efforts, certainly of the campaigners, but very grateful for the attention given to these matters by the overview and scrutiny members of this council as well. And we certainly need to continue to question relevant NHS departments, including NHS estates. We'll certainly keep everyone informed of our dialogue with the government in due course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Mr. Booth, did you have any response to that, or? No? That's it. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, beg your pardon, everybody. So item 12, is an update on the Benjamin Court facility. Do you have anything to add, either councillor Adams or Officer Blatch, to what you've already said?
Thank you, Chair. So I, recognising the decision and recommendations from the Overend Scrutiny Committee at their meeting of the 16th of October, when there were three recommendations made. In terms of the first issue around the availability of data in terms of the numbers of people that are in acute hospitals in Norfolk and the data we included within our submission to the Health Watch engagement process in July. We haven't been able to update that in the period since the ONS meeting on the 16th of October, in that I've been absent from the office for some time in terms of leave and other commitments. We have made inquiries of the Norfolk Virtual Ward pilot scheme, which has only gone live in North Norfolk relatively recently. And we are seeking responses from Norfolk Social Services, Norfolk First Support Programme, about the quality of experiences of the service in terms of availability of carers, which was raised by local stakeholders as part of the engagement process with Health Watch Norfolk. But we haven't received any information around that in terms of the availability of carers, how often the residents, recipients of those services may be returned to hospital because they're unable to make that adaptation or move to independence following hospital discharge. So I think that the data we had in July suggested that about 20% of beds at the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, perhaps a slightly lower number in the QE at Kings Lynn and the James Paget at Galston at any one time were occupied by people who were medically fit for discharge but needed support to return home or were awaiting a placement in a care home or adaptations to their property. And that comes at a significant cost, in that I understand that the cost of an acute hospital bed per night is about 3 times as much as a bed in a reablement or convalescent recuperation type environment where care is provided but not medical intervention. In terms of representations to NHS England Property Services, we haven't received any communication from them centrally as to their intentions to market or dispose of the facility as yet. I don't think that comes as a surprise, in the ICB position was only determined at the end of September, so we're only 6 weeks past that date. But I'm happy, on the basis of Mr. Booth's question, for us to instigate that approach to them directly to ask what their intentions are so that we can understand that position more clearly. I think that would be helpful to the campaign and to local stakeholders and the community in Cromer and the wider North Norfolk district, so that we can consider our position further. There was also in the engagement, Health Watch engagement response, a suggestion that there was a demand for a small office or base space for community nursing team, and we could accommodate technically that demand or need for accommodation here in this building, as our own floor space requirements have changed, and we are in contact with the service provider about whether those needs can be met from this building, and those conversations are being progressed by the Council's Estates team.
Any members have any more to say at Benjamin Court before we move on?
Well, I would just welcome the council's endorsement really of that position, that we do seek to make contact with NHS Estates, and certainly, as I said before, really welcome the interest that the relevant committees had in this item. So perhaps we can consider reporting back there in due course as we learn more. It's important we keep this in the frame, as it were, keep it in the public domain. Really, you know, the winter will be very telling in terms of the pressures that put on NHS acute services in our county as a whole. So yes, certainly just wanted to really endorse the position and hope that the council is comfortable with that. Thank you.
Any other? Councillor Withington.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Withington, then Councillor Dixon.
Thank you. In regard of the information that you've reminded of us from the July figures of the number of people who are currently in acute beds who could be discharged to another more suitable environment, I think it's important that we do keep monitoring those figures, in particular as the virtual ward has now come on stream and is working. As to whether that's effective or not, I think will be shown in those figures. So I think it's really important because the actual capacity of that virtual ward, as I understand it at the moment, is 15 patients a day, which for the whole of North Norfolk is not a significant number of people. So it will be interesting to see how that service is impacting on discharging safely to our communities. So I do hope that we will and feedback to this council on that continued monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In respect of the recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on this matter, I just probably should add that, yes, we set an expectation that the matter would be considered at this meeting, and that would be on the basis of an update, and that's precisely what you've got on the agenda tonight. I think there was no expectation that there was going to be an outcome necessarily, but it was going to be ongoing work in progress. And I suspect that will be the case for some time yet. Having read all the papers that were supplied by the Chief Executive, I see that there's a lot going on or has been going on. There's still some more work that can be done. And the expectation is that there may be some clarity around the position of justifying data one way or another. And I think we've got to allow time for that process to produce that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think when we look at care and carers, we think about maybe their visits to our vulnerable people, maybe twice, maybe 3 times in the daytime. But speaking from experience, it's the night times. It's the night times when vulnerable people are most at risk when they're on their own. And it's the night times when the carers are the most vulnerable, when they need to be lifted to the toilet, or they need another need met, or they're just plain scared. It's the night times that this facility helps with the most, I feel, because we can put carers in the daytime. It's very difficult to get carers for nighttime and overnight as well. So having a facility that looks after our vulnerable people 24 hours a day, I don't think can be underestimated. And I was at that meeting when the Chief Executive of Norfolk and Waveney was here. And I said exactly the same thing. And that was the echo from all you great supporters as well that have been banging that drum. And it went unheeded. It was a foregone conclusion. So yes, we fight on. And if there are other ways of using that building to the benefit of our communities, then we will find that too. But we won't give up this fight because it's a precious building. Thank you.
So do we have a mechanism for data collection as mentioned by Councillor Withington?
Yes, we do have a resource in the council, a data analyst, and she is giving her attention to this matter. And we are using contacts within the wider health and adult social care system to build our understanding and test the assumptions around those data sets in the way that Councillor Withington alluded to in terms of how the virtual ward is working. I wasn't aware that that arrangement only meets the needs of 15 patients per day at any one time. And again, that's something that I think we do need to understand, because if 20% of beds in the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, which does serve obviously a very wide geography, all of most of North Norfolk, all of Broadland, South Norfolk, City of Norwich, and parts of the Breckland district. But if there are 20% of beds at the Norfolk and Norwich which have people who are capable of hospital discharge but don't have an appropriate setting to go to or support at home, that's 200 bed nights in the acute hospital that are in that system and are having their needs met in that environment, rather than a step down environment where perhaps more individual care or family support could be provided. And I think what we saw through the campaign and the representations that were made to the engagement process conducted by Healthwatch Norfolk was that, particularly in Benjamin Court, where there were private or individual ensuite rooms, that family members, partners and carers could aid and support people during their recovery and reablement. They weren't restricted to visiting times, which was just 2 till 4 or 6 till 8 in the evening, that some people were supported in their recuperation by having visitors or family members or whatever over a longer period during the day. And so there was, there was the support which Councillor Fredericks has mentioned in terms of staffed or oversight at night times or evenings or whatever, but during the daytime those intervention levels or staffing levels could be ameliorated or stretched further by people that wanted to provide support to care and loved ones. And I think that's what the Professor Chris Whitty report about ageing said, and about North Norfolk's particular demographics. If you live in the North Norfolk district, you've retired here or you age here, and you then lose a partner or your partner is incapacitated, and you are dependent upon public transport, friends or neighbours to take you to the Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital to visit somebody, and many people want to do that on a daily basis, that is a very significant commitment, both financially and in terms, and that can't be substituted. The value of a facility like Benjamin Court in our North Norfolk district cannot be underestimated in terms of that value and the quality of life and care experience that both the patient and the family members or households are able to experience. Because getting on a bus or a train and then having to get a bus out to the NNN is a big commitment for a frail elderly person. And for many people, that's a very difficult time in their lives when they may be suffering or experiencing less mobility themselves. They may not be able to drive. They're dependent upon friends and neighbours, and they may be feeling vulnerable by being at home on their own. So there's a lot that is at play here in terms of the nature of that care and the value of that facility. And I think that was outlined in the Healthwatch engagement process and the submissions that people saw or submitted. And the conclusions of Healthwatch Norfolk was that those issues should be investigated further before a decision was made. And I am on record as part of that process of saying that we understand that the system is under very acute pressure, but having something that is so centralised in Norwich doesn't meet the needs of our communities and our demographics.
Any more comments about Benjamin Court? No? Now we move on to portfolio reports and the questions thereon. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Okay, members, any questions on portfolio reports? Okay. Might have to help me with the numbering. The biggest, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Bayes, Councillor Toy, Councillor Boyle. No. Golly. Brilliant. Councillor Penfold. Okay, you might have to help me with the numbering. Okay.
Looking that way, if you're looking that way, I should take one of it.
Okay, we will wing it. Okay. Councillor Bayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question tonight is for Councillor Shires. At last week's overview and scrutiny meeting, you explained that the collector's cabin in Kiruma needs a new roof. This is a building which has a lease to an ice cream seller. It's currently a thatched roof and is proposed to rethatch. This would cost an estimated £30,000. Given the council is in dire financial straits, please can you confirm that a far cheaper roofing alternative will be used? This should reduce the insurance costs as thatched roofs are expensive to insure.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, this was raised at overview and scrutiny, and our Section 151 officer, Officer Stankley, agreed to go away and find some further information and bring that forward to the Cabinet meeting, where the recommendation will then follow to full council. So we're just awaiting that information at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay. So I've got Councillor Vickers.
I have a question for Councillor Withington. So Councillor Withington, a Fakenham resident asked me why the council has removed the gates on the Lawns Children play area in Fakenham because they were concerned about child safety and dogs getting in and fouling the play area. And as a mum and a granny myself, I'm concerned about this too. Officers tell me that the old gates were removed because they no longer met the ROSPA safety standards, and replacing them would cost £700. But unfortunately, they said there's no money left in our budget to help you out. So I just want to ask you, how come £65,000 has been set aside in the budget for a new play area in Sheringham, but we can't provide a comparatively meagre 700 so that Fakenham children can play safely? I mean, we've already heard about the 30,000 set aside for the roof on a coffee kiosk. I just wondered if you could help me out here.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Vickers, and I appreciate why you're concerned about that. I am going to refer it across to Councillor Shires because it's actually a property issue, not my portfolio. I'm referring it to Councillor Shires.
Sorry, I'll take that up. I wasn't aware that £700 was a blocker. But if you can send me some information, I don't want to turn around and move away from the microphone, so I'm not being rude. If you can drop me an email, we'll see what other solution that we can come up with on that. It isn't in my report, so I wasn't aware of it.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Councillor Leith.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Councillor Brown. Could you please give us an update on the local plan consultation?
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. The next round of the local plan journey is a public consultation which was launched on the 7th of November, and it will run through to the 19th of December. What the consultation focuses on is additional sites and provision for additional small growth villages being included in amendments to our original draft plan to satisfy the new pragmatic approach by government to increase our housing numbers. So the online submission system allows the use of the internet to make responses. We will also accept responses by email, by letter, and from people in person. We did need to make a few corrections to the system to enable people to respond. We were getting feedback. I think initially there was something very minor like a logo that was missing from the website, and that was fixed by our IT section sort of on the first day. And then we had a difficulty with an error message that was appearing if somebody tried to save some response on the system and then revisit it to finish it at a later point in time. That has been fixed. And we also, for the benefit of residents, included a Facebook connection as well. And some people took that to mean that if they didn't have a Facebook account, they wouldn't be able to respond to the consultation. But I think we've ironed that out as well. So once we get these responses, and they are being responded to, we've had 23 online and 7 offline responses to date from members, from stakeholders, and from the public, of course. We are responding to those in a timely manner. Most of them have actually been dealt with so far. And then we will move on to submitting these to the inspector, and he will revisit us in the spring. And hopefully, if the modifications can be agreed with the inspector to our plan, we are looking at adoption in May, which will, I think, bring to a close a process which has taken us just a little over 10 years. So it's quite a complicated procedure. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Lee. And if I may, just before I close, put out an appeal for our planning training on Friday morning in the boardroom. Every member is invited to it. It should only take about an hour and a half or so. And then you will be accredited to be a member or a substitute member of the Development Committee. And that will open a wealth of opportunity and an opportunity for some participation and amusement amongst members if they are duly accredited. So if I can just make that plea to members, that is 9:30 this Friday morning. It's an in-person meeting in the boardroom. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Fredericks. As we stare into a near £9 million black hole in our budget over the next 4 years, with huge pressure coming from temporary accommodation, your role at this council becomes more and more vitally important. It is my opinion that we need to tackle this issue head on. We need to think big. So can you tell me what drastic action you've taken or are planning to take to seek a resolution as soon as possible?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and thank you for highlighting the fact that we haven't been properly funded for the last 14 years either. This situation is critical, and we're doing everything we possibly can. We've bought 25 units now of temporary accommodation, which is saving us a vast amount of money. We're looking at the 1.3 net figure of costs of temporary accommodation. If we hadn't bought those 25 homes, that would have been double. So places like Bournemouth, places around the country are spending 50% of the overall budget on temporary accommodation. So this authority is doing incredibly well, and we're recognised throughout the country for that. And my housing team have been asked to speak at events, and I've been asked to counsel councils on what we're doing, because we're doing the best job that we possibly can. As you see, the homelessness figures are falling, and that's because that we've been trialling a new allocation scheme, which has worked. And the new allocation scheme is now completed the consultation, and that will be brought to, I believe, Overview and Scrutiny to have a look at. and that overwhelmingly supports what we are doing is the right action. So yes, we're doing everything we possibly can, right from prevention. Our teams are there for prevention duties. And what I would say, actually, if there's any press that want to help us, which would be unusual, but if there's any press that want to help us, please get the message out that if you're worried about homelessness, please approach us as early as you possibly can. But that's what I would say. Please approach us as early as we possibly can, because in some cases we can prevent homelessness. We just need you to come to us for early help, and our teams are there ready and waiting to help you. So in answer to your question, everything we can. And we're now looking forward to the government's allocation of our settlement, which will be hopefully sometime in December. I'm being told December the 12th, but it could be any time up until 5:30 December the 23rd. So we can look at how we allocate funding for prevention and for more homes that we can buy. So thank you very much.
Yes, please, if that's okay, Madam Chair. Well, no, thank you for your response, Councillor Fredericks. And, you know, I fully appreciate the work done by your officer team in this very tricky situation. But if I may in this, you know, full council chamber, give you perhaps another idea to explore. I'm not sure. You said that you've done everything you can. You're trying everything you can. I don't know if you've tried this. But, you know, in our Stalham ward alone, we've got two very big buildings which have sat vacant for decades. Both of them buildings have got approved planning applications already on them. One is a former hotel, one is a former hospital. Have you approached the owners of them buildings? Have you spoken to them?
Yes. So the answer is yes, we have. The hotel that you're talking about, we've actually been to visit and done a viability report on that. It's not viable. We cannot bring it back to use for temporary accommodation. The best thing, yeah, we have done that report. Housing strategy. I'll tell you what, we can fill you in on that later. The other one I think you're thinking about is Catfield.
Yep.
Okay, so that has a bit of a shaky, I don't know if it's bought, if it's not, because I believe there's been a bereavement. So we haven't been able to approach the owner of that. So if you've got any contact, I'd love to talk to you about that.
Well, we absolutely do. It hasn't been bought. It's sat there vacant since that planning application came through. So if I may, Madam Chair, I know this is supplementary to my supplementary, but it's a very quick one. But what is that criteria? Obviously, you said the hotel in Stalham isn't fit for purpose, but I mean, why not? You know. Okay,
that's easy one, because it will take too much money to bring it up to spec.
Okay. If you say you've done a report on that, could I see that report?
Yeah, I'll get housing strategy to talk to you on that. But yeah, there are some buildings which just isn't possible to bring up to fire regulations. It's not bringing up to EPC standards as well. So we need to keep people warm. So the amount of money that we spend on renovating an older building like that means that we can actually buy newer buildings, which will cost less for that tenant to heat.
Completely fine. And on the Catfield case, I think, you know, if we can try and deliver that as a temporary accommodation scheme, you know, I think I can speak for both of us, but we're more than happy trying to set up those conversations. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
So I always forget to do that. You've got a graphic in your, sorry, this is Councillor Toy. In your report, you have a graphic which shows the distribution of, very wide distribution of grants for the helping the local economy. Just wondering how that translates into employment and the flourishing of the local economy generally.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. And yes, a good question. Thank you. Yeah, firstly, that graphic, if I can just let people know that this is some GIS mapping, and there's some technical issues at the moment, but hopefully everybody will get access to that so that you can interrogate it yourself in your own areas. In terms of the spread, it's pleasing to see that spread. Obviously, you'll see there's some concentrations around the towns, which you wouldn't actually expect. But actually, some 87% of North Norfolk has a rural context. That's from, you know, from studies that were done before the strategy was developed. And 88% of our businesses are in the micro, which is 10 or less employees. And so much of our economic activity actually goes on in our rural hinterland. But also what we've done by working with these businesses and assisting with grants and engaging them with their digital support, the survival rates in North Norfolk to 5 years is in the 51%. And normally nationally, that's about a third. So we're actually achieving good survival rates as well by our business engagement. So how does this, you asked how this translates into our economy. Well, we have higher than nationally average occupancy rates in terms of both industrial and shops, although we see gaps, which still around, I believe, around the 50% again. And what that means is that we're growing business rates, which again is within a normal context, business rates are falling in places, but because we've got the occupancy rates, we've got the survivability rates. So you will have seen in my report there where it's enabled diversity projects which have gone on, and therefore if you've clicked on it and seen me blowing away and talking to one of our recipients, and I think also as a council that has a green agenda, this local sort of economy that's going on means it's addressing some of the travel issues where people need to travel to industrial areas. Actually, we've got it going on in our hinterland where people live and work, and it's creating communities. So hopefully by seeing this spread and showing how we can obviously identify the gaps where things haven't happened as well in the future, you can see how it's benefiting the whole economy in North Norfolk. So thank you for your question.
Councillor Vardy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, so this was to be directed to Councillor Ringer, but in his absence, perhaps Councillor Adams might help to inform us on this. Could you please confirm if food waste collection will be mandatory for this authority from 2026? And if so, what is the council doing to prepare for this? For instance, will it impact on our budgets at all? If so, how will we manage this given our dire budgetary situation? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I think in due course, there probably will be some reporting to committees. So it's currently a business plan is being worked up towards the introduction of not just food waste, but also plastic film collections. But just getting straight to the point, yes, there is a cost element there because you are introducing a new round of collections, therefore new vehicles and biodigestion, of course, across the country, if indeed we carry on the path of introducing this universally across every council area. So some of the big impacts, because everyone is going to be trying to purchase the plastic polymer at the same time for new waste caddies, new waste bins. And I think there will be some supply and demand issues, to be honest with you. So I think this is every authority that's looking towards introduction is facing some of these questions really in terms of the obvious pressures that could arise. So we'll obviously keep members informed when we are in a better position to do so shortly, but yeah, we're certainly moving towards introduction by 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vardy, did you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Adams. Yes, could you please ensure that when this is prepared, when it eventually comes to council, in the first instance, that you've worked out some kind of budgetary implications for this council authority so we can measure it and see how we're going to manage it, given that the millions of pounds that we're going to be a shortfall going forward. So thank you.
The budgetary implications of every action the council is taking is certainly being looked at very closely. So it certainly will be a consideration before we look to make any sort of purchasing changes to contracts, etc., etc. So that will certainly be the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought Councillor Boyle was before me, but that's absolutely fine. Thank you. Question for Councillor Fredericks, if I may, please. Refers to page 34 of your report. First of all, congratulations to your team for the speed of processing new claims for council tax benefit. So that's fantastic. I just wonder whether you would consider that the 1.23 million of benefits claims so far, with the help of the team, has been a key part in improving well-being of our residents? And do you think that this has also contributed to fewer families losing their accommodation?
Thank you, councillor Penfield. I really do think it's vital that we keep this team and their work going, because as you say, they brought in 1.23 million to date of this financial year of more benefits into people's pockets in North Norfolk. That's extraordinary. And part of preventing people going into homelessness is being able to pay your bills. So this team looks at their finances and recommends different benefits, that recommends how people can budget properly. So yeah, I've got nothing but praise for our FIT team, and I'm incredibly proud that we decided to go ahead with this implementation. And they've proved their worth time and time again. And thank you very much as well for the praise of our benefits team. They work incredibly hard day after day with new claims. Their work is going to get even harder because of I won't bore you with it, but benefits, the housing benefit is going to be migrated to universal credit. So it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to reclaim any of the benefits that shouldn't have been paid. So their accuracy is incredibly important at the moment, because any mistakes we won't be able to correct when that person goes over to universal credit. But all of my teams work fantastically well to prevent homelessness and to prevent suffering. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question for the leader, Councillor Adams, if I may. Viaro Energy has bought the Shell site at Bacton. They've announced that the site is a target location for a small nuclear reactor. Do you endorse the negative response to this announcement from Stefan Ackero, the new Member of Parliament for North Norfolk, who stated nuclear is not a renewable option? It goes against the grain of where we are going in North Norfolk.
Thank you. So I will seek to learn more about any proposals. Bear in mind, we don't necessarily have a proposal as such submitted for a molten salt reactor at this stage. We are seeking discussion with Viaro in fact, we've already tried to seek discussion. So the announcement in respect of this came without any prior knowledge of anyone in the local government sector, but also I don't think any of the local community were aware, of course. What I did say at the time, it doesn't absolutely surprise me that we are seeing such proposals emerge. So if we are to reach the production of green hydrogen at some point in future, we are going to need lots of electricity for both hydrogen production, the electrolysis, but also desalination. So it didn't surprise me, and that was something I did say to the media at the time. Not that they ever printed that, of course. So I will seek to, and I think it's my responsibility to seek to learn more about the potentials for such a thing coming forward before I came to any sort of conclusions. And obviously, I'm acutely aware for the local member, there's probably been an awful lot of dialogue about this, and it's probably quite difficult to answer some of those questions. And it's something obviously we would want to be able to help members across the council to be able to do as well. So I think it's I think that's my responsibility. And obviously, as the details emerge, we will try and keep everyone informed. Thank you.
Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Got a question for Councillor Adams.
Excuse me 1 minute, ma'am. Did you have a supplementary? question?
Yes, I do, if I may,
Sorry,
Madam
Matt.
Chairman. I just like to say I'm delighted here. Councillor Adams is considerably more open-minded than the local member about this issue, as indeed we should all be. A small nuclear reactor could supply power to 250,000 homes, and there's a power shortage in East Norfolk particularly. Also provides some excellent employment opportunities with high-skilled jobs for people in the area. So provided it meets all the safety and other criteria, I think it's something that we should certainly be very interested in and not take the sort of negative response of Stefan Acaron and pursue that course. Thank you.
Sorry.
I was just wondering if we can respond. Obviously, can I just, before I hand over to John, just say we don't actually know this is a domestic electricity housing supply. So we don't have that level of detail yet, and don't want to deny anything else that was said. But we've obviously got a lot to learn.
And if I may just add, just for information, so people know that the work is going on. I'm working with the county council who are developing a plan in terms of the lack of energy, a lack of water supplies, and all the issues that are relevant to us. So not only are we looking at it locally, we're actually working on the larger picture as well as with county council who are developing that plan. So thank you.
Councillor Boyle, eventually. Apologies for that.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, it's a nutrient neutrality question. I note the upgrading of septic tanks is being used as mitigation and is working to release housing areas. There seems to be a win-win in a way forward, and is it likely that it could be easily rolled out in other areas to free up more land as we move forward?
If it's okay, I will hand over to, I do have some knowledge, but I think the man to my left is probably best placed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Yes, thank you, Councillor Boyle, for your question. The answer is yes. The first tranche of grant money, a substantial part of the grant money from government, the previous administration, has been used by Norfolk Environmental Credits to support schemes to replace failing septic tanks, to create advantages and benefits in the nutrient neutrality calculation for the district, and that will release credits, having undertaken that work, for developers to buy if they can't provide on-site mitigation as part of their development application to enable developments to proceed. So that is vital work. At the moment, there is only one approved contractor, but we are soon, I understand, moving to a second accredited contractor who can undertake that work in an efficient manner and complete work that will be compliant with Natural England's requirements. But the real game changer, if I can just
Councillor Brown, I've got 3 minutes left and I want to take a question from Councillor MacDonald. So can you
Yeah,
be
I
brief,
will be
please?
very succinct, Madam Chairman. The real game changer will be purchasing land with that grant money that can be improved and offered up for more mitigation credits. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor MacDonald. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question's also for Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown, could you give me some detail on the changes to planning law regarding the period of unauthorised development needs to reach before to avoid the potential enforcement action being taken?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Did you say we had 30 minutes? 3 minutes. Right. Okay. I will try and break with tradition there for Madam Chairman. Yeah, very succinctly. People, I think, in the room realise that you don't actually need a planning application approval to develop land. And so what used to happen when applications were not submitted is that development would take place, and the owner of the property would then hope that 4 years would lapse and they would, at the end of that period, get what's called deemed planning permission, so that after that point in time, they wouldn't need to apply for permission to regularise the development that they've undertaken. Now, the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act, which came in, well, this part of it came into effect anyway on the 25th of April this year, extended that 4-year period to 10 years. So I would expect that to initially at least relieve some pressure on our enforcement team, but maybe in the long term, we may need more resource to undertake reviews on that. That is my assessment of the situation. But it's an important change to planning procedure, Madam Chairman.
That's sufficient, yeah.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Are there any appointments to committees, subcommittees, working parties and outside bodies? Thank you.
Yes, please. So first of all, I wanted to appoint Councillor Wendy Fredericks to the Planning Policy and Built Heritage Working Party. That is filling the vacancy that exists for the Liberal Democrat group there. Sorry, excuse me. And secondly, I wanted to, and this is one we do need to take a vote on, is to appoint Andrew Brown to the Norfolk Rivers Internal Drainage Board in place of Councillor Callum Ringer. That is a council appointment. The previous was an appointment I can make. So if I can just propose that change, and hopefully it's seconded by someone else. Thank you.
Sorry. Item 10, recommendations from Cabinet on the 4th of November, car park fees and charges. We have multiple recommendations here. Councillors, do we take them en bloc or does any people want to take them separately? Councillor Cushing?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can we take, I'm happy to take B to H en bloc, but I'd like to take A separately. And for A, I'd like to propose that instead of a 10p increase for the standard car parks, there is no increase. I'm happy to explain the logic behind that.
Right. We'll discuss A first and then move to B to H to discuss on block. So do you want to lead the conversation?
I'll lead
Cushing?
if I may. When this came to the October overview and scrutiny meeting, the proposal was for a flat rate 20p increase across all standard resort and coastal car parks, and that would have raised £410,000. And I asked at the time what sort of figure the council were looking to raise, and I was told it was going to be circa £400,000. And it was then we suggested you look at various permutations for doing that, as opposed to the flat rate 20p. And at the time, I did suggest no increase for the standard car parks. The standard car parks only, as the paper in both the overview scrutiny and Cabinet papers show, only represent 9% of the income, and that 10p increase would only raise £32,700. if you take it, what is written there in terms of the proposals for the 10p, 20p and 30p, that's actually going to raise over £473,000, so well above the 410 that was proposed in overview and scrutiny. Therefore, if we lose the 32,000, we're still going to be raising £440,000. Now, the logic behind this is that the standard car parks, the inland towns like Stalham, Fakenham, and indeed North Walsham, obviously the shop holders there desperately need all the support we can get. And I think it would be no impact on this council to a very small amount of money going to raise from those. And I think any help that we can get is certainly something that we should be doing and encourage. So therefore, that is why I'm suggesting that move. Thank you.
Who would like to respond to that?
I'm
Councillor
happy
Shiles?
to respond on as long as Councillor Adams is happy for me to respond. I'm sure everybody's quite tired of me talking about car parking. For some, that will be the third time we've had this conversation. So I'm very grateful, and I must begin by saying that I'm very grateful for the support across all parties in the chamber with rising to the challenge of the financial deficit that we have forecasted previously. And I really welcome the seriousness to which everybody has taken the conversations. So when we met Overview and Scrutiny Committee and we discussed the increases, I was very, very keen to hear everything, and Overview and Scrutiny Committee were actually extremely bold in the way that they wanted some of the increases far bolder than I think I would have been in many, many ways. So I'm very grateful to every single member for that. The reason that we've looked at the increases the way that we have is to make sure that we have an in line with inflation increase as much as we can do across all the car parks, because we do actually need to cover the maintenance and running costs of the car parks as well. So when we look at the 10 pence increase, it actually works out at 12.5% on the hour, whereas the 20p in resort works out about 16 pence increase an hour, and the coastal is 16.5% increase. So we've tried to do it as fairly as we can, because I've also got to be very mindful that we have residents that live in our resorts as well, who do need to be able to visit their local areas, and businesses are struggling in resort towns as well. So we've done a fair increase across the board rather than putting everything onto resorts. But as a North Walsham member, I must say it's very rare that we do have space in our car parks, and what we do have is a large number of residents and business owners who buy the parking permits, which are still extremely good value for money. And we have agreed at many meetings to ensure that our parking permits continue to be good value for money for North Norfolk residents. And that is our visitors who pay the price of the car parking. I've walked through North Walsham car parks specifically, just relating back to the towns. And I've been to Fakenham car parks as well in my great joy of portfolio visits, and I have noted there are a large number of permit holders already, which shows that our messaging is getting out there. So a parking permit holder will get far better value for money for our car parks. So whilst I appreciate the raising of this again, we do need to raise in line with inflation across all our car parks.
Councillor Cushing, do you have a?
Yes, well, I'm happy to actually formally propose the change I've made. The point is, it comes back to my point, we don't need to do anything we don't want to do here. You say we need to raise it in line with inflation. As I say, stated, 32k on top of a huge budget out of what the many millions ago, it will be negligible and not noticeable, but it certainly might be a little bit that helps. If you look at Fakenham, I mean, some afternoons Fakenham is like a desert. I mean, there's nobody in there. And this council, one of the things in terms of economic development priorities, ought to be looking at towns like Fakenham, Stalham, maybe North Walsham is in a better place. I don't know. I don't represent that area, but I think anything we can do to help them, and I think that it would go down well. I know I mentioned this to the Fakenham Town Council, and something that they would strongly endorse. No increase as well. I suspect Stalham, I've got my colleagues there nodding their heads, would do the same. So that's why I think the proposal stands. You're still raising well above what you actually proposed to raise when it came to overview and scrutiny. Even if you take that 32k off, you're still going to be far better off. So that's the proposal I'm making. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Madam Chair, I'm quite happy to second that the amendment there. Obviously representing another inland market town, completely condone the comments made by my colleague Councillor Cushion. Anything we can do to help support Stalham business owners, and very difficult time, absolutely, I think we should be doing it. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzpatrick, were you going to second it as well? Yeah, okay. Fine, that's lovely. Anybody else want to make any points? Councillor Penfold?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just take issue with the comment that Councillor Cushing made about 32,000 not being a lot of money. When one of your members asked a question about the collector's cabin roof costing 30,000 and saying that was quite a large amount of money. So you can't have it both ways. Either it is or isn't. I think it is. And the point being made is that the increase will be for increased maintenance costs and upkeep of the car parks, which is that inflationary costs that we have to keep minded to. So that's my point. Thank you.
Well, Councillor Penfold has said a lot of what I was going to say. Actually, £32,000 is actually a lot of money, and it is a lot of money even to us at the district council. So if we take £32,000 out of the equation, it will be need to be found elsewhere. Inflation, yes, it's certainly impacted the costs of services, and we have to remind people, perhaps at this juncture, that there are discretionary services in the inland towns as well. So all of those have increased in cost, and the car parks have helped. Well, they've ensured we're able to fund all such services. So, if you think, for instance, the great bulk of the car parking income, of course, comes in at Cromer, and that pays for many of the assets there, but it then goes from there and is spent elsewhere in the district. So, it's really helped sustain many such services, and it needs to increase on a relatively frequently basis in order to keep pace with that increase in cost. So, I could not support making an exception to that rule in this instance, because councillors want to do it for their own towns. Obviously, we're all here to represent our own communities, but we've also got to take responsibility for the district council and the budget as a whole. So that's I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you.
Councillor Vickers?
Yeah, Councillor Penfold, I think, is comparing apples with pears. We're talking about 30,000 for a roof on a coffee shop, not even a shop, a kiosk in a park, compared to the well-being of businesses in Stalham, in Fakenham and in North Walsham. So I don't think it's a very fair comparison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, I'd be interested in economic development, clearly. And so I've tried to do research and find out what I can. And I'll just take this, one of the things that I found, it's from the Welsh people, but it says that beyond anecdote, there is very little published evidence which links charges in car parks to charges to town centre footfall. There is no evidence that directly links it. It's anecdotal. That's not to say it's not real. However, what it does say is a lack of signage and ability to find car parks does affect people finding them. Now, I'm not saying that we're ring fencing this money, but we will have £30,000 more in the budget to do towards supporting those businesses rather than doing something that is anecdotal. I'd like to try and be evidence-based, and I've not found evidence to support that argument. And the people that have spoken to towns here know that I've been around, and I know that there's other things that they wish to do, and we can't do both. If we don't put the car parking charges up, then we've got to find money elsewhere, which means there's less money to support those other things. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Chair. What inflation rate are you working to? Because the increase for the inland was 12.5%, you're saying? Isn't inflation more like 4%?
It's the accumulated inflation since we last put the prices up.
Do they not get put up annually then?
We haven't increased our car parking fees annually, but on the basis of Councillor Holliday's recommendation about the stepped increases to permits, we will be looking at the fees and charges again next year for car parks.
I did. Thank you very much, Chairman. Just asking, when was the last time we actually raised car parking charges as a council? And also, if we don't do then would we be looking at taking this from council taxpayers rather than people that are actually using the facility? Because myself personally, I probably use a car park maybe 5 times a year, probably something like that anyway. And I think I'd be pretty annoyed if my council tax was going to pay for other people parking, because it's a non-discretionary service that we offer as a council, and we are going to do some education around teaching you about statutory services and discretionary services. So I just that was niggling in my head. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, it is a non-discretionary service, but we've just been told how much money it's going to make. So I think that's that non sequitur. Just pick up Councillor Toy's point about there is no evidence that car parking brings footfall. Well, I think the Federation of Small Business say exactly the opposite, and a lot of our people in that support, I think, the Federation of Small Business on that. However, there's always been differential. The differential means that some types of car park pay more than the others, but the places that are really affected at the moment, badly affected, are our market towns. Now, North Walsham may have had a bit of a revival, but I don't think that's the same in Stalham, Fakenham, and even Holt as well. And I think, and the other thing to remember is covering costs and all the rest of it. Well, a car park in Fakenham is just about to be closed. So there'll actually be quite a saving in the maintenance cost of that. And there's already an early saving in closing the public lavatory there. I think it's really important that we support our market towns. It's a small amount of money, but it's the whole principle of being seen to do the right thing. We can write reports, we can visit, we can go and visit Squatter Enterprise Park, which is run by another authority, but actually it's what we do in this council, and it's to show actually that we're supporting our market towns, that this has been proposed. Anything that puts people off going to places that are quiet on Saturday afternoons is something that we should not be voting for, and I wholeheartedly support freezing it for the market towns and letting the more prosperous parts pay their way.
Councillor Toy.
Thank you. I think there's no doubt that we have to have our car parks, but we have a responsibility to maintain them. And there's no doubt that we need to pay for the contracted services that we have to bring in to do that maintenance. But if we don't increase the amount, which is not very substantial, I don't think, for most people, and say we'll leave it for 4 years, and that's fine, we'll keep it as it is. In 4 years' time, we'll have to increase it. And 4 years is not any, it's just a figure out of my head. We're just being nice to people for 4 years. Then we increase it. It's going to have to be a lot more because the services that we need to bring in to do that maintenance is going to be a lot more. And that's going to be harder for people to swallow. And I really don't think it has, I think somebody said here about the Fakenham, I think it was, being really quiet and nobody's in the town. And that's not because of the car parking fees. That's my belief. It's got to be about the town. People will pay that little bit extra. And I think that we should move this forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll close and come to a vote.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I have personally no issue with an inflation-based increase in car parking fees. I think that's sensible because of our overheads, etc. Our car parks generate, I think I heard a little while ago, about £700,000 per annum. Please, I'm not definitely accurate on that net profit. And I think that it would be very useful if this administration, I mean, this is a positive comment, were to have some kind of communication strategy to say that, yes, we are increasing our car parks and we do get income from our car parks and make profit from our car parks, but we need to reassure them and reassure businesses, reassure our economies, and that that we suspect we're supporting tourism, etc. At the moment, you don't hear much about this at all from this council. I just think it's an opportunity for you, based on these increases, to have some sort of strategy to say, and we've improved the toilets in Holt, shall we say, and that's a result of our car parking fees. Not that these fees have gone into general budget, which they do, is just actually slip some of it out and make sure that there's some recognition that there's benefit from the car parks and benefits our economies in a positive way. So that would be my thoughts on this. Thank you.
Councillor Brown, can we move? Is it really germane? Because we have,
Yeah,
it's taken quite a long time.
Actually, I'm just a little bit concerned. I wanted to offer the hand of commiseration to Councillor Vardy because he apparently hasn't bought the ticket in this raffle to include Holt along with Fakenham and Starland, and I'm left scratching my head as to why Holt as a market town has been singularly excluded. So I'm really sorry, Councillor Vardy, that you have not been included.
Okay. We'll go to the vote on this. So
Yes, please, Chair. Just to say, come back on this. I don't understand what Councillor Brown's on about then. It's just nonsense. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's return to the topic under discussion, shall we? We're going to vote on Councillor Cushing's proposal that the fees for the standard car parks doesn't rise at all. Is that correct? Is that the wording you would like? Approximately? With the rest remaining as they are. Okay, so it's just the standard car parks, not increasing. Okay. So those in favour? Sorry, could you keep your 11. Okay. 18. Okay. No abstentions? I don't think. No. Sorry, Peter. One abstention. Okay. So the proposal fails. Okay. So do we have to vote in the okay. So now we're voting to A to H on block.
Oh, no, sorry. No,
B to H on block.
No, B
B to H on block. Yeah. Okay. So do we have any debate on B to H? Councillor Adams?
I suppose I just wanted to say that, you know, we've obviously seen about £500,000 of inflationary pressure. The increase in car parking fees will help ensure that we are able to run facilities that are emerging, in fact, such as the Fakenham Leisure Centre. There will be a cost element to that. It won't pay for itself universally itself. There's the costs involved with things such as the public toilets in Holt. people will probably some point mention again the collector's cabin in Cromwell Bit. That has its own tenant that will actually pay for itself, and the roof just needs replacing. But if we think of all of the other assets that we've got in Cromer and Sheringham, that take a real pounding from the visitors in terms of the usage. They do cost a lot of money to maintain. So yeah, it goes back possibly to Councillor Vardy's point, and he's very, very right in saying, the car parking fees contribute to ensuring we're able to accommodate so many visitors into our towns, coastal communities, but also, serving for the shopping centres in the towns as well. So that money is, that revenue is put to, I think, really fantastic use. And we are still lower than many other comparable coastal tourism areas in terms of our car parking fees. And if you look at the debates that are happening now in Breckland and Broadland, they're introducing car parking fees for the first time. The challenge for us is that income, that revenue, I should say, is now being eaten into to a great extent by other pressures around the council. So sustaining all of our assets is becoming increasingly challenging. So this is an important point, but we have to review our car parking fees on an ongoing basis to keep pace with that inflation, rather than build in the cost of inflation into reduced charges continually, which I think is the risk. So I simply wanted to thank members of the Scrutiny Committee for quite an extensive look at this. I think it's fair to say some of the proposal that came before was quite remarkably different to the discussions there. But I thank them for quite a thorough look at this issue, and also to propose acceptance of the recommendations.
Okay, well, I'm informed by my expert to my right that we have to go back to A, and we have to vote on A as it was originally proposed, and then we'll come to B and H. But we'll take your nice general preamble as an introduction to voting on A. So voting on A as it is proposed in your papers. Yes, is that correct, ma'am? Have we got I think we've got proposers and seconders right there. That's all right. Okay, so all those in favour of A as it is stated on your papers. Okay, and those against? We've got one of, do we have any abstentions? Two abstentions. Have I got the right numbers?
Yeah.
Good, okay. Okay, so now we'll go to the vote on B to H. And Councillor Showers wants to speak first.
I'll be brief, I promise. So as I started when I first spoke about this item, I really valued the conversation we had at Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So as we will see, item B, we largely agreed on as Cabinet and ONS, the same with C. D, which is the coach car parking charges, we reflected on what other local areas were charging, and we felt that the full day charge was a little bit higher than everywhere else was offering, and we didn't want to take some of our tourism away from our local areas by outpricing them on car parks, so we've slightly readjusted that. But aside from that, the only new introduction which wasn't discussed at Overview and Scrutiny Committee was the car park in Munsley, which is a resort car park by location, rather than a coastal car park. It's used to service the town centre, and it's not used in the majority for tourism. So that was the only other change that we made, and the reviewing of the fees to be done next year. So I just wanted to reintroduce where we were on that. But again, Overview and Scrutiny Committee were far bolder. And in the conversation we've just had about the hourly rates, Overview and Scrutiny Committee did suggest that we charged resort car parks by 30 pence. And I felt that a 25% increase on the hourly rate there was a little bit further than I wish to go. But again, I thank you to every single member of Overview and Scrutiny Committee for their support and efforts in getting us to where we are right now.
Thank you. So do we have a proposer for B to H? Post and the seconder? Okay, thank you very much. And take a vote. So who is in favour of items B to H? Good. Okay, thank you very much indeed. So recommendations from Overview and Scrutiny, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, obviously the recommendations in respect of 16th on October have already been dealt with. So I'll move on to the 13th of November. At that meeting, there were 3 topics that were discussed. One was the Tourist Information Service and the Cromer Tourist Information Centre. The second was the medium-term financial strategy, and the third was the budget monitoring report for period 6. There were no recommendations relating to today's agenda, so the recommendations have yet to be ratified at the December meeting, and those relating to full council would be best presented to the December full council once it's been ratified. If you're content with that, Madam Chairman, I'll close at that.
Thank you very much indeed. Everyone happy? Good. Any questions from members?
None received in advance of the meeting.
I was just going to respond to Councillor Dixon, if that's okay, because the items will be coming to the next cabinet meeting. So we'll have another look at them then. But I again wanted to thank, and I don't know how much of a habit I'm going to make this of thanking the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the support and effort that went into looking at the medium-term financial strategy, because I know that has been a contentious document, and I really, really value the effort that's gone into that and how that's going to support us in monitoring our budget and our savings and our performance financially going forward. So I just wanted to note that I'm grateful for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and the work they're doing at the moment.
Thank you very much. Was there any opposition business? Was not, was there? No, none
None.
received. Any motions? None received. Okay. No need, do we have any need to exclude the press public? No? Okay. Any private business? Okay, well, the meeting's over, chaps.